This beautiful morning. I have to come like this because I tried to set up all the equipment, and when everything was finally set up, which took me like an hour to get it all set up, I realized it was lagging so much that there was no way I would be able to do the show. So we're like this today. We've got a lot to go over here. I wish I could show you. We're going to be listening. I've got my handy dandy laptop right here for everybody, so we can have some conversations about certain things. Now, Charlie Kirk was assassinated on September 10th, and he was assassinated by what appeared to be a lone wolf, and his name was Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old that was living with a boyfriend that's transitioning from a man to a woman, and his name is Lance Twiggs. It doesn't appear from everything I've seen, which is much different from where we started at the beginning of this case. I do not believe Lance had any involvement in this, even though he was kind of the trans individual that was converting over to a female and having this romantic relationship with Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson started getting involved with more left-wing ideology groups, but it doesn't appear like it started there. The parents said, they gave statements to law enforcement, and the law enforcement statements that they provided were very, very, very telling. Good morning, Dawn. It's nice to see you. Melanie, Stacy B, Pebbles. It's nice to see you. Rebecca Collier. It's nice to see you. Deanna, Denise. It's nice to see you. Stacy, good morning. Our beautiful Pebbles. Phoenix Moon, Dawn. Beck, do you know what groups? I'm looking into them. I don't know which groups they're identifying personally behind the scenes, but I think it's multiple groups. What I do know, what has been over the 9 hours that I listened to of direct testimony to the Senate and the House from Kash Patel, it does appear that there was a group that knew this was going to go on. That now, were they part of the planning? Did they tell them to do it? Were they in? We don't know that. But we do know that at minimum, 20 people, 20 individuals are currently under federal investigation over the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Where those will go, I don't know. They did start releasing some of the text messages back and forth between Tyler and Lance, the boyfriend, that his partner that's converting. And you could tell that he texted him. It said something to the effect of, go look under my keyboard, and it lifted up and it said something like, I had an opportunity to take Charlie out and I took it. And Lance, I guess, was watching the news and had realized that the older gentleman was taken, so he was a little confused and clarified, and he asked him why. And it said, because some hate can just not, I can't remember what specific he said, but it was about the hate. First of all, Charlie didn't hate. He was a religious person that applied that religion to politics. And he went out and spoke about the Bible and spoke about politics, because politics and the Bible go hand in hand. If you read it, there's a lot of political stuff in the Bible and getting, different areas fixed. So he bridged those gaps to show you where in the Bible certain political differences and ideologies are. And that's what he did, and he was ultra effective, and he was taken out from that. Now, why? Because he wasn't violent. He spoke his truth, whether his words weren't hateful. It's just words that people hated. They didn't want to hear that the Bible, says one man, one woman. They don't want to hear that. It doesn't mean that it's not true. It means that they don't want to identify that, they don't want to hear it, and they don't want to acknowledge that being true, even though it is. So that's what it is. They were attacking not only First Amendment, but Christianity. And we have to understand, why are so many people going after our Christianity? And it's for control. And if you notice, when did they start changing? About 2012. Remember when Barack Obama came into office? All of a sudden, it was Happy Holidays. We could no longer say Merry Christmas. Everybody was being force-fed no Jesus at certain Christmas events. They started removing Christ out of America and making it very notable and a line in the sand about the time that Barack started his first presidency. Now, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Let's find out what a retired CIA man has said. This is important. Listen.
Why Christians? I remember the Soviet Union made a statement that we could control all of our entire population except the Christians. And they had to put them in prison and in gulags. And I remember 1994 when I was in the CIA, we were ordered into a conference room. We all filed in. There's about 30 of us. And our division chief starts off by saying, now don't get mad at me, I'm just the messenger. This comes down from the director of the CIA. You can no longer say Merry Christmas in any CIA office space. You cannot have a manger scene on your desk or on your door, or you will face administrative
1994.
penalties. And the sad part was only 2 of us.
So this was even before Obama, according to him. But I think that this is when it took hold, because it wasn't until maybe 2008. I remember us being forced that we could no longer say Merry Christmas. We had to say Happy Holidays. And I'm like, Happy Holidays, but it's Christmas. You know, kids don't understand that. Kids don't understand that. Why? They needed to attack the Christianity.
Our jaws dropped. Like, what? I remember it was Christmas Eve, and I walked out. You know, I thought about this, prayed about this overnight, and I said, oh, no, you don't. So I walked out on New Year's Eve, and I turned around to everybody, and
Christmas
I said,
Eve.
Good night, and by the way, Merry Christmas, because the Christians are the only ones that will not answer to tyranny. We believe in God and a higher power, and we will not be manipulated by a tyrannical regime. Why Christians? I remember the Soviet Union made a statement that we can control all of our entire population except the Christians.
So they can control the entire population except Christians, because we have a moral compass. We have a duty to a higher power than our peoples, than the earthly powers. So I think I think we need to look at the history going back as to why we are here. What started this? Thank you, Seth. Thank you. Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, Happy Halloween. God bless you. God bless you. And I thought it was very interesting and so blessed true. And then again, that came from Seth. Seth sent that over to me. So thank you, Seth. Seth is actually a part of our audience. And as you see, he is also a mod. If you guys don't know about Seth's story, Seth has a son that's missing. His son's name is Sebastian Rogers. He's been missing since February 26, 2024. Yes, 2024. He was last seen with his mother inside a locked bedroom or inside a locked house. Here's this beautiful face. There's the beautiful face right there. That's Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. He's going to be turning 17 in December, and we haven't seen him since he was 15. So if you guys have any information, while I have the pulse, a whole bunch of people from all over the country and world, coming in here and saying hi. Here's Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. He has been missing. He could literally be everywhere, anywhere. We don't know where he is, but his mother doesn't appear to be as eager to get him back. And so that's a red flag for me. His father or stepfather is a piece of crap that had 5 CPS reports against him before he disappeared. And I know once you guys hear those details, you guys will realize that there's something not right at the house. And that's kind of where my investigation started, was at the house. Well, the mom and the stepfather are trying very hard for me not to find the truth about their son and try to use lawfare against me to have me arrested. So if you guys know anything about Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers or the piece of craps that actually were with him, which, let me see if I can find a photo of those Hot Mess Express people. Let me put them up here. We got them somewhere. I've covered a lot of cases, folks. I've covered a lot of cases. There's Mom. This is the one that disappeared her son, in my opinion. She's involved some way, somehow. That's Katie Proudfoot. So if you guys ever see her out and about, just know if she's, know any family, anybody, I'm just saying. If you guys have seen her or this child anytime in 2024, please reach out to the FBI or 1-800-TBI-FIND. Again, Sebastian Rogers has been missing since 2024, and we're looking for him. Okay, getting back to the regular. Thank you for being here. She is not a motherly person, in my opinion. That's directly from the father. I agree. I couldn't agree more. But I couldn't agree more because I stand right next to you throughout all of this, and in my opinion, they're both pieces of garbage. Seth has been fighting for his son and fighting for law enforcement in that area to take his son's case seriously, but they're friends with the mom and the stepfather. They're associated with developers in their community and therefore provide a lot of funding to that community, and they're slow walking the case when they should be throwing the parents in prison, the mom and the stepdad. Obviously the father's in our chat right now. Okay, so getting back to Tyler, now I'd like you guys to hear. This is going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to turn the volume up so I don't have to hold this very heavy computer up so you guys can hear it. So I'm going to ask you guys when I start if you guys can hear it. Good morning, Sonia, Lisa B, always, Robin, everybody. Thank you guys for the birthday wishes. For those that weren't here last night when I was live, I did get my birthday gifts at the house. I have a gracious neighbor that always takes my stuff in, and he called me and said, it looks like you got things that are fresh. What do I do? And I said, oh, what is it? And he's like, the cake. I kind of know where the cake came from. So I'm like, well, stick that in the freezer. I said, when I get back, I'll pull it out and we'll have some birthday cake. And he goes, okay. And so I told him to go ahead and take the flowers. There were some flowers. Thank you. He's hopefully going to send me a picture this morning. And so I told him to take the flowers to his house, cut them. He's just next door. He's a retired guy. He's like the Crime Watch nosy neighbor guy next door, which is fine for me because he keeps my house safe, when I'm out of town. And I told him, I said, well, you just got yourself some fresh flowers there. What did Seth say? Is Seth passing around him 64 again? He's such a liar. But you know what? If I was 64, damn. I have the youthful age of a 64-year-old woman. Oh, come on. A big turn there. There it is. Robin. The big 2-3. You just got to times that by, 2. We're 23 square. Is that right? I don't even know if that's right. That might be like a billion years old. Oh, good gracious. Or maybe times 2. Okay, we're 23 times 2. But it's nice to see you all. So this is actually interesting because this is the sheriff's description of the first interaction with Tyler Robinson. So I didn't have an opportunity to listen to this because I was extremely tired last night, but I it's a press conference. I mean, it's a press conference. See that they're in the room for a press. So I figured it's factual information that we haven't gone over, and I thought you guys would be interested in it. So I'm going to go ahead and play it for you now. Let me know if you guys can't hear it.
You guys can talk to me.
Oh.
Yeah. Anything good on mic checks?
I'm going to hold it.
I've got 4 on me. Good? Okay. So I'm Sheriff Nate Brooksby, Washington County. Just starting with a couple preemptive things.
I'm going to hold it. Make it easy.
What I'm going to be discussing is not anything to do with the ongoing investigation. We are not the lead agency.
So they're not going on the investigation. They're just going to be talking about their interactions. And I think he needed to make that statement because the guy has been arrested. Now different rules apply to what can be released and what cannot be released. If you guys don't know, that is just policies and procedures. So if you ever have a criminal case and you want to know the policies and procedure, come on over here to the Bullhorn Betty channel. And while we have about 600 people in chat, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, folks. And we're going to try, again, I'm just on the road. I'm heading to the memorial service. and my equipment's not working. So I don't have good internet where I'm at. So it's just we have to do it like this. So I apologize for the not so professional, montage of information.
FBI, State of Utah,
I'm gonna take this off so you guys can actually
Utah
see it.
County, UVU, big collective effort.
There we go.
So our involvement, I describe it as just a really long agency assist. So we're not conducting the investigation, we're not doing interviews. I've been asked some questions, and there's some that I'm just not going to answer. It's going to be focused on how we were able to get Tyler to voluntarily come and turn himself in at my office. That's going to be the scope of it.
So if you guys don't already know, Tyler Robinson was not immediately identified as the gunman. And so they had a lot of information. They had a screwdriver. They did find the gun wrapped into a towel in a wooded area. And they did have some stuff that would have eventually identified him, but they had videos. And typically the protocol of the FBI is to withhold that. We saw it in Mangione's case. We saw that in several other of these high-profile cases, including the Boston Marathon bomber type of case. They withheld releasing the photos. Well, with this new FBI department, they have opted to release that photo out to the public to see if we can start finding out who it is. And according to what we know is that the father knew, he looked at the picture and he identified his son. He knew it was his son. Aw, thank you. 592 in chat, only 88 likes. Guys, hit that like button. Thank you for that. And so the father ended up calling, talking to his son. I heard that his son wanted to do self-harm. When he was kind of caught and realized what he had done or whatever, the son wanted to self-harm, and the father had to work with him with it. From my understanding, potentially another pastor had come over or something. And so they ended up working with him and drove him in to turn himself in. So that's how the whole orchestration came. They didn't Dad didn't call law enforcement and beat the door down and just drag him out. The father worked with his son so his son could turn himself in and be safe. I think he knew something bad was going to happen if he didn't step in. And ultimately, we're hearing that he's struggling right now in jail, that they're having to have people, they have him in the turtle suit, they have him on S-Watch, self-harm watch. I got to be careful what I say on these platforms. So there's been a lot of struggle, but if you didn't know that, that's how that kind of happened. But this is the interaction that they had after the father brought Tyler into the sheriff's office to turn himself in. So just to clarify for those that didn't understand the dynamic there.
I do want to touch on, so I have a retired corrections deputy named Matt Robinson. There was some initial news that, to the extent of ridiculous information out there, that Matt Robinson is currently a deputy with the sheriff's office, and he physically put handcuffs on his son, the suspect, and brought him into jail. That's completely false. It just so happens that Tyler's father is Matt Robinson. There was some information about a retired deputy, so somehow that got blurred in the media. And
so he's not being clear. Hopefully he'll explain this just a little bit more, but it sounds like, we know, I never thought that he shackled his son and brought him in like that. I knew that there was some other dynamic because I knew that his son had threatened self-harm to him before bringing him in.
And I want to make sure that we're walking that back as best we can, because Matt Robinson, my retired deputy, has been been harassed. He's had to leave his house at this point.
So it doesn't. What the heck happened here? Did I accidentally hit something? Where is mine? Okay. So it sounds like the officer allegation is not true. So I don't know who his dad is, nor have I looked into his father.
So whatever you can do to help walk that back, I'd appreciate it. His family would appreciate that.
So he's not a deputy.
So getting into the details. So Obviously, we knew Charlie Kirk was assassinated at UVU in the afternoon. About a 33-hour manhunt ensued, and I was winding down for the evening. And at exactly 8:02 on the 11th, I received a call from a friend of mine who happens to be a retired detective that worked for me for many years. I didn't put that out there initially. I wanted to protect that individual as much as possible. Unfortunately, in the court documents, which is standard, he was referenced as a retired Washington County deputy. So I didn't put that out there. It was in the court docs. I was trying to protect even that information and just saying retired law enforcement in general. So I get a call from my friend, and his said, "Hey, how you doing?" Good. And it's not, he's been retired a few years. We'll call each other. It's not unusual for me to get a call from him or vice versa. And at 8:02 p.m., he calls me. Hey, I can tell his voice is kind of shaky. So my first thought is, who died? Like who's he going to tell me that died? And then I couldn't fathom what actually came out of his mouth. So he said, "Hey, I know who Charlie Kirk shooter is. I know the family through religious association.
Right there.
And he's in Washington County now, and we're working on trying to get him to come in voluntarily." During that phone call, some information was provided about Tyler potentially having some suicidal ideations, was en route to a remote area of Washington County. The parents convinced him not to do that, and conveyed that they would stand by him and help him surrender peacefully. So at that point, that phone call was 1 minute and 41 seconds. I immediately called Sheriff Mike Smith in Utah County, who I knew was at the incident command in Utah County. So for about 40 seconds, I'm telling Sheriff Smith, "Hey, I'm confident we have the shooter in Washington County. We're working on getting him to come in and surrender at my office." We didn't have him yet, and after about 40 seconds, Sheriff Smith's like, wait, what are you talking about? So he was shocked, as I was, to hear the news. And so I repeated myself. He said, "How credible is it?" I said, "I trust this guy that called me with my life, and I think it's time you need to get your people, the lead investigators, headed to Washington County." Within the hour, my friend drove Tyler and his parents to my office, where he was greeted by plainclothes detectives. So that was part of the deal. Is Tyler knew it was just inevitable with all the law enforcement pressure that his picture in the news, the gun on the news. He knew it was inevitable that he would be caught. He was fearful of a SWAT team hit on his house, or he was fearful of being shot by law enforcement. So part of the negotiation and getting him to bring himself in was that we would treat it as delicate and as soft as possible to make him feel comfortable to where he would show up at my office. And that's
So now you guys have a little more detail on how he was taken into custody. CWA says Lance Twiggs' family spoke with Candace Owens because they didn't like how the media was making Lance seem like he seemed like a sweet, innocent person, when in fact he was such angry, crazy. Yeah, we know that a lot of the ideology was a direct result of Lance. There's no, in my opinion, there's no, but he wasn't directly involved in this. But was he in his head constantly, feeding stuff to him? I have to think that yes. He was also on those hormones. Hormones make people very, very nutty. Okay. I don't know if you've ever been around a person that has had in vitro or hormone treatment to, say, have a baby. They kind of turn very, very. If you've witnessed it, it's very angry. Angry. That's the way I can describe it. They're short. It's not like when they're going through all these hormones and stuff like that. Even to have pregnancies, and I know this because I can tell you I've witnessed it firsthand, and it was awful. It was awful when a family member of mine was trying to get pregnant and was, failing at getting pregnant and went under all these hormones and stuff, and just a different person. Just a different person. And that was just for a female trying to have a baby. Can you imagine the kind of hormones that they're pumping into people that are trying to transition from a man to a woman or a woman to a man? It's got to be pretty. You're changing the biology of your freaking body. I mean, that's got to have some significant effects on the human body. I mean, take our opinions or stigma or biases away and just look at this from a medical sense. You're changing your body's makeup, and you're stopping the body from performing normally. It's got to be having some negative effects in your cranium. I mean, your cranium is part of your body. Every medication you take affects the brain. It's shutting different sectors off to the brain not to produce certain hormones and stuff. Like, you're talking about brain science here. And you're talking about people doing it that do not have the qualifications. I don't care if it's a brain surgeon. Nobody in the world has an idea of what the true capacity of the brain is, because nobody has been able to unearth the true capacity of the brain yet. We're not there in our society or even in our makeup of as a human species. So, they're doing some science fiction stuff that's affecting people's brains and obviously creating this hostile and violent being. And I've witnessed it, like I said, with a family member trying to get pregnant, and all the hormones that person was on. It made them nasty to be around. And of course people accept it because we know that it's for the next generation, yada yada yada, and it was only temporary. But the trans community, it's not temporary. I mean, they're having to stay on these medications for years. Where somebody's trying to get pregnant, they're getting an injection here and an injection there, trying to have, and going as far as like in vitro fertilization. They always start with the hormone therapy before they go to the actual, implantation of eggs and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's just that I know that it's affecting the brain. I've seen it before, and for this to be given to them and made to to stay on it for a long time or forever, that's I think a lot of the problem. I really do. These medications are screwing with the brain, and we have to identify that.
That's exactly what happened. So since we weren't the lead agency, basically it was about a 2.5 hour waiting in a room, not communicating with the suspect. Our job was not to interview, our job was just to get him here. So after about 2.5 hours, we ended up getting federal agents and state agents in, and some of my detectives were asked to go out into the community and secure 2 locations, so the parents' home and the apartment that Tyler was living in, along with the vehicle that Tyler was likely driving up at UVU. So that's about it.
Sheriff, how would you characterize that former law enforcement friend of yours as a doing something good here?
Yeah, outstanding. He deserves full credit. I think that a lot of it's just the community relations, right? So Tyler's family trusted this individual. They knew he was involved in law enforcement at some point, and enough community involvement there.
And it sounds like the church had a long handle in it. So he has probably about another 12 or so minutes, less than 12 minutes of answering these questions, and you guys are more than welcome to go look at that. I'll drop, not right at the moment, but later we'll drop this into the chat, or the description, so those that come back can actually see the description of these sources in here. I also found out, now I didn't watch it, I'm not a Jimmy Kimmel fan, okay, so I don't really watch Jimmy Kimmel at all, so I don't know what comments he made, so please forgive me on that front. I just don't know. But apparently, from what I hear, is that he has now been removed from the ABC network. He's no longer going to be aired. FCC chairman reacts to ABC suspension. Jimmy Kimball. Let me see if I can get the reactions. Okay, here it is. I think it's right here.
He jumped. And remember, this is Brendan Carr said to podcaster Betty Johnson today, quote, "What people don't understand is broadcasters are entirely different than people who use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and what comes with it is an obligation to operate in the public interest. From my perspective, it's frankly amazing a show lasted this long." FCC Chairman Brendan Carr is here now with the latest. Sir, welcome to the program. Can you explain that difference? Go into more detail.
Yeah, broadcasters are different than any other form of communication, including here. We're on cable right now. Fox News doesn't have an FCC license. CNN doesn't. But ABC, CBS, NBC, those broadcast stations do. And with that license comes a unique obligation to operate in the public interest. And over the years, the FCC walked away from enforcing that public interest obligation. I don't think we're better off as a country for it. But look, President Trump ran directly at these legacy broadcast outlets, and he exposed them to these market forces. And a lot of these affiliate groups said, to your point, we're tired of carrying this stuff. Late night shows, something's gone seriously awry there. They went from going for applause, from laugh lines to applause lines. They went from being court jesters that would make fun of everybody in power to being court clerics and enforcing a very narrow political ideology. And Nexstar, as you noted, stood up and said, look, we have the license and we don't want to run this anymore. We don't think it serves the interests of our community. Sinclair did the same thing. So there's more work to go, but I'm very glad to see that America's broadcasters are standing up to serve the interests of their community. We don't just have this progressive foie gras coming out from New York and Hollywood.
And there are plenty of other platforms.
So they're done. They're done with the nonsense, it sounds like. I mean, I think this is good. You know, we want news that's news, do we not? Like, we want news that is news. We want to know that when somebody's telling us something, that it's in our best interest. And there's a lot of policies and procedures out there for these broadcasters that have not been enforced for years. And now it's like, you know, it's coming to the point where they can start pulling these licenses, and I think it's in the best interest that they do. Now, as you guys know, I've watched close to 9 hours of footage. 9 hours of the Senate Judiciary Oversight, and then, 4.5 hours, somewhere around there, the Senate Judiciary Oversight. Waste of time, just a hostile environment. Nobody's really trying to get anything done. They're just wanting the aha moment, and I mean that from the left, not anything else. If you don't believe me, you can say, oh, your opinion's biased because that's your ideology, and you know what? That's a fair argument to have. It's definitely a fair argument to have. So that's why I tell everybody, go over there and check it for yourself, because you don't need to take my word for it, right? You can make your own opinion based upon your own viewing of it. But it was a hot mess express. That's my opinion. All the way across the board. And then yesterday was the House. And again, another situation, what does it say? I suspect that not great, just because of the shift Overton window. And what isn't sacred may not always been in your personal favor. And very well true. If the FBI is going to cover up something, tell JD Vance they need better people in the job. Well, I'm very confident that whatever's going on in our federal policing type of branches is getting cleaned up. I do believe that, because in all fairness, there's a lot of people that are, rooting against America as a whole, and sometimes that's coming domestically, and that stuff has to be weeded out. It takes some time. I mean, in all fairness, they've only been in office for. Trump's been in office since January 20th, but Kash Patel wasn't confirmed until later. I think he's only been in office for, cleaning up everything 7 months. So he's done amazing work in the 7 months. But a lot of this, back and forth goes to the culture behind the scenes in our federal branches, like our U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives and stuff like that. The problem I'm seeing is the leaking of classified information. And why is this important? First of all, it's a crime to release classified information. It's classified, okay? These are stuff that's protecting our homeland, okay? And they're leaking this stuff to news organizations to run stories so they can take those stories and open an investigation. So they're doing criminal conduct in order to open up ridiculous investigations with the help and their partners in the media. And that is what's going on. And so this is Jim Jordan calling out Adam Schiff, Shifty Shift, for doing this. Now, mind you, Adam Schiff is under criminal investigation for mortgage fraud. And I believe that's just one of many investigations into Adam Schiff. Apparently, people like to put rules on us, you know, as Americans, but they don't like to follow the rules that they tell us we are required to follow. They always think that they can work a better deal, that they're entitled to things that the rest of America isn't, even though we pay them lofty salaries, so they don't have to be on the tip of America, yet they are robbing us blind. This is Jim Jordan going off on Adam Schiff about these classified leaks.
Today's hearing on oversight of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is the first occasion for the committee to get back together since the tragic death of Charlie Kirk. Charlie was a good man, a happy warrior who
he was.
fought for principles and values I think make our country special, and certainly was a strong proponent of defending the First Amendment, something this committee cares deeply about. I said this over the weekend. I think Charlie lived that scripture verse, 2 Timothy 4:7. Fight the good fight, finish the course, keep the faith. Charlie certainly lived that, and he did it with a smile on his face. And so the tragic killing happened a week ago while we were in markup here in the committee. And I know everyone. I know that our witness was a friend of Charlie's, and I know many people in the dais were as well. So I know we're all praying for Charlie's family. And I would extend a moment to the ranking member if you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in shock to the brutal assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Classified information.
Okay, here we go.
As customary, we will begin with opening statements. 5 weeks ago, because of the work of Director Patel, we learned that the former chair of the House Intelligence Committee and current United States Senator leaked classified information. We learned this because a whistleblower came forward. Whistleblower with 23 years experience in the intelligence community, a Democrat staffer on the committee, said this: they were pressured to leak classified information.
They're talking about
raises the obvious question. Why would the head of the Intelligence Committee, the chair of that committee, who's supposed to be guarding our secrets, why would he be encouraging the leaking of classified information? Whistleblower told us that answer as well. The leaked information was supposed to be used, the leaked information, false information, was going to be used to indict President Trump. Now, the former chairman wasn't the only person leaking information. Jim Comey was also sharing things he wasn't supposed to share. Again, don't take my word for it. The Inspector General told us this. In his report, he said, quote, James Comey violated FBI policy by disclosing classified information. And what was Comey's motive? Same as the senator from California: to sabotage and undermine President Trump's first term. And we know that Mr. Comey's not been shy about what his objective was. In fact, 4 months ago, he told us. Remember this? 8647. Jim Comey told us just 4 months ago. Now, how'd they do it? How did the former chair of the Intel community, the former FBI director, and others in our government attempt to undermine President Trump's first term? 7 weeks ago, because of the good work of the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, we learned from another whistleblower, a second whistleblower, that in the closing days of the Obama administration, the intelligence community assessment was changed. On December 5th, 2016, they had one assessment. That assessment said Russia did not impact the election vote count. There was a meeting at the White House on December 9th, 2016, where it was decided, no, we're not going to have that. We're going to come up with a new one. And the new one said Russia was trying to influence election and did influence election, which just wasn't accurate. And that new one is published on January 6, 2017. Let's just show you a few things that took place. I want to show you first this email from Admiral Rogers, the head of the NSA. You can see it was December 22nd. Says to Jim, John, and Jim Clapper, John Brennan, Jim Comey. And he says, I asked my team if they've had sufficient access to the underlying intelligence, sufficient time to review that intelligence. On both points, my team raised concern. Further states, my folks aren't fully comfortable. A few hours later, there's an email back to Admiral Rogers. This one is from Jim Clapper, and it says this: it is essential that we be on the same page and are supportive, and all of us are supportive of the report in the highest tradition of, that's our story, and we're sticking to it. We may have...
So they're fluffing the information, and then they're going to leak this fluffed information. An article's going to be written about this fluffed information, and then now they're going to have an open investigation on this fluffed information that these people fluffed themselves. This is the orchestration. This is the corruption in Washington and with the media, the legacy media. This is why everybody doesn't trust the media. They've been leaked stuff here. And this reminds for everybody, I know we have a lot of new people in the chat. We have rules in this chat. You cannot be disrespectful. You don't have to comment at all. You can block me. You can move on. But if it's something that highly offends you to make you want to say something bad, this ain't the chat for you. You will be blocked. Your voice will be taken from you. That's how we roll over here. So if you want to be respectful and have your opinions notated, you can respectfully notate them. But when you start saying nasty things in the audience, you will be removed and blocked. That's how we roll over here. We expect adults to act like adults. If you're not an adult, this is an adult group. This is an adult chat, and we only want the adults here. Okay, you act like a 2-year-old, we get you out of here. We don't play. We don't play over here.
To compromise on our normal modalities. This is one project that has to be a team sport. That's our story, and we're sticking to it. Compromise on normal modalities, that's a fancy way of saying, that's the government speak for we're going to have to change the rules. In fact, we're not going to follow our own rules. And that's exactly what they did to get the objective they wanted, to undermine President Trump. Now, how did it specifically take place? The whistleblower said that the government officials ignored concerns about discredited information. And what was that discredited information? What was the discredited information that they didn't ignore the concerns about? What did they use, that discredited information? Of course, it was the dossier. The now famous Steele dossier that was paid for by the Clinton campaign when they hired the law firm Perkins Coie, who hired Fusion GPS, who hired the foreigner Christopher Steele, who wrote all this garbage and lies down. That is what was used to change the intelligence community report. And what happens next? What do Jim, John, and Jim do next? They go to Trump Tower on January 6, 2017 to brief then President-elect Trump about the dossier. Again, the Clinton finance, foreign author dossier that the whistleblower knows is garbage and that they know is garbage. And then there's one final step. One final step. Jim Comey leaves that meeting with the president and immediately leaks to the press that they briefed the president on the discredited information. They briefed the president on the dossier and thereby giving it some credibility and creating the basis and the predicate for all they did to the president. They leaked false information. They leaked classified information. They used and leaked discredited information, and they didn't follow their own rules, all to sabotage President Trump's first term. And but for this guy, Kash Patel, but for this guy, we would never have known this information. The good people of this great country would not have known what took place 8 years ago when they were trying to undermine the guy elected by we the people.
Pretty interesting stuff. Pretty interesting stuff. This is a problem for me. And then they leaked that to the news, and then the news wrote an article, and then now you got yourself an investigation.
And I want to thank Attorney General Bondi. She set up a special strike force, a special team to look into this and see if there's any criminal liability that exist in what took place. Now, in addition to getting the truth to the people, Director Patel is getting the bad guys off the street. He's moved agents out of Washington, got the focus off of politics here in D.C., and is instead putting bad guys behind bars. 21,000 violent criminals have been taken off the streets, which is a 125% increase from the comparable period in the previous administration. He's rescued 4,000 kids. He's got 1,300 predators who he's arrested. He's also ended the weaponization of the FBI. No more spying on parents at school board meetings. No more pre-dawn raids on pro-life Catholics.
Did you know that's what the Biden administration did with the FBI? They started sending people out to the school boards. They started arresting people for praying. You guys remember all that? That's what our FBI was doing, spying on us instead of the bad guys. That's pretty scary. That's pretty scary. And then lastly, I think this is important because the first 7 minutes of this talk about, the White House and learning about Charlie Kirk's assassination. I thought this was pretty interesting that I thought you guys might want to hear. And then we're going to probably, where are we on time? Close out. Don't forget I'm on the road. If you guys would like to help support this mission, you guys can do that by Super Chat, Super Sticker, or Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal. I do appreciate, obviously not required, but always appreciated to have that financial help and assistance. If you'd like to do a little more and become a monthly partner, please consider a membership and a membership tier.
Since Charlie Kirk was gruesomely assassinated, the nation still mourning. His family, his friends, his fans. Primetime had the privilege of sitting down with one of Charlie's closest friends, the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. It's his first interview since the assassination, and J.D. says he owes his job to
It is kind of his first interview, but he did run the Charlie Kirk show in honor of his friend. J.D. Vance was very, very close to Charlie Kirk. Many people are very close. Many people in this movement have, even my name, even being out political during these times from 2015 to 2020, we were all everywhere. We were all everywhere. That was kind of the time that I met everybody in the conservative movement. We all had our meetings, our focus groups, all of our stuff. We were all going out there and into the sea of uncertainty with our words. And basically one of our key leaders was assassinated. It hits home. It hits home very, very hard.
Charlie. We flew out to Howell, Michigan, where the Vice President toured a metal manufacturing company with a group of Turning Point students. J.D., emotional, took us back to the moment when the White House found out Charlie was dead. Mr. Vice President, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, it's good to see you.
Where were you when you heard Charlie was shot?
So I was in my office in the West Wing. The Vice President actually has a couple of offices. There's the Executive Office Building office and the West Wing office. I was in the West Wing, and I just finished a meeting with somebody, I'm not even sure who, and I looked at my phone, and there were a bunch of group chats, frankly a lot of them that Charlie was in, where they said, "Charlie, praying for your brother, hope you're doing okay." And then I opened up my door, and somebody said, "Charlie's been shot." And it kind of hit me like, oh my God, this is very real. This is very serious. And, what happened over the next hour or so, I'm guessing, is, we knew Charlie. It's called your body guy, your special assistant, the person who's always with you. And I had a very dear friend in the West Wing who knew Charlie's body guy. And so his name's Mikey, and called Mike and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And what was really, obviously, the news was discombobulated. No one knew what was actually happening. It was a very chaotic moment, but there was a brief period where we were getting good reports from the hospital. And I don't know how plugged in you were to that.
I heard those.
And so, I saw the initial video. I've only seen it that one time. I refuse to watch it again. I don't want to see that happen to my friend ever again. But I initially thought, terrible, terrible news. And then I started to feel kind of hopeful. And then, of course, we got the news from Mike that Charlie had passed probably about an hour before the rest of the world found out. And I was the person who walked into the Oval Office and said, "Mr. President, I'm sorry that Charlie passed." And that was a very, very tough moment. Susie Wiles, the White House Chief of Staff, was in tears, and she doesn't show emotion. She is even keel the whole way, and she was in tears, and I just gave Susie a hug, and I think all of us kind of lost it, and it felt like, it felt like we were all mourning our friend before any of the politics or the thought about, what a titan he was and how influential he was to the movement. How do we possibly replace him? We were all just sad because our friend had died, and we supported each other in that moment, as you do with your friends. But man, it was a bad, bad day.
When you told the president Charlie was dead, how did he take it?
The president is very stoic, but he was clearly upset. He just kind of went quiet and let it absorb a little bit, and then just shook his head and said, man, he was a good guy, and we really loved him. And that's exactly right. That was a good thing to say. And we all just kind of had that same realization that he was a good friend, that he really loved what we were trying to do. He was a great supporter of ours. And it was a great honor to have him both as a friend and as a supporter. And frankly, Jesse, I would not be the Vice President of the United States were it not for Charlie Kirk. Aside from Donald Trump, I can't think of a single person who deserves more credit, who advocated more for me, both in my Senate primary back in 2021, who advocated more for me to be the nominee as vice president, who advocated more for us to get in there, not just advocacy, but effective action and organization. I wouldn't be the vice president. I wouldn't have this job without Charlie Kirk, and I'll never forget it.
Do you believe that people out in the country should watch the video?
I know
it's very hard to stomach.
Yeah.
Is it important for people to process it?
Look, I go back and forth on it. Look, it's my friend, and it's incredibly gruesome. And what I think is maybe it's useful for everybody to see at one time, because then you see what they did to Charlie Kirk. But I don't want anybody to remember Charlie Kirk in that 5 seconds at the end of his life. I want them to remember Charlie Kirk, the skilled debater. I want them to remember those videos, those incredible videos of him and his wife and his babies, and how much he loved Erica and how much he loved those kids. I want them to remember Charlie for that. I want them to remember Charlie for the guy, for when it was these kids behind me. Now, I hate to call you guys kids, but you are, who would, a progressive would step up to the microphone at a Turning Points USA event, and some of the audience would jeer and cheer, and Charlie said, no, let him speak, because he so desperately believed in this idea that we should be talking with and debating one another. So maybe see the video to understand what the far left did to Charlie Kirk, absolutely, but that should be one fraction of 1% of your memory of Charlie Kirk. 99.9% of it should be a titan of the conservative movement, a beloved friend, and a dear husband and father.
I couldn't have agreed more with that assessment than that. So, guys, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you guys an awful lot. This trip truly would not have been possible. I had already decided I was coming, but it really wouldn't have been possible without digging into the legal fund to do it. And so with the contributions that have helped me come out here have really helped a lot. It made it a lot less stressful of how was I going to do this? Where was the money going to come from? Because this was unexpected. If you guys know anything about me, I budget the crap out of my life. So everything is budgeted to be able to manage the stuff that we do here. And I don't budget or manage emergencies. And that probably needs to be part of a strategy, but I've never been in a situation like this where, everything's always known. So even if I don't want to do something, if it's known, there's something already set aside for it. But that's how I do everything. You got to remember, we were traveling all over this country when I was only making $1,000 a month. You cannot do that without budgeting the crap out of a budget. And that had to pay for living expenses as well as traveling expenses. So I've just learned budget. And this is where we're at. And I'm very, very thankful that I didn't have to sit at home and feel horrible about not being out here. So they were, Rena. It's just been, it's been hard, it's been hard on me. Although we weren't like tight or best friends or anything like that, we had respect for one another. We've seen each other again. I think there's been at least 20 or 30 different organizations that I've seen Charlie at over the last decade. Turning Points is one thing that I've been going to since almost its creation in Tampa. I think the very first year it happened was really the only year I did not go. I even went this year. We didn't have any front row Joes that went this year except me. And it was, it was different, but I got to see all the people that I wanted to see. I got to see Charlie. I got to see Steve Bannon. There were several other people. They have all these breakout sessions, and I got to meet some new candidates, and that's what made me decide, because I was just going to do small groups in Tennessee, and because of a candidate that I saw out of Kentucky, I decided to incorporate Kentucky into my small group formation out there. I've managed to before. It was New Mexico and Montana, but that was when we were having, I had a lot more attention because we were fighting a tyrannical government at the time, so it was easy to get people on board. Now I'm a Florida resident going into a different state to advocate against, obviously politicians that they like and keep putting in office, but it's going in there and speaking to them and showing them their record and showing them the obstruction and getting people over to, it's time to remove these people out of office. So we haven't even started campaigning into the Tennessee area yet. I plan on doing that starting the beginning of the year. I'm hoping by the beginning of the year, most of these court cases will be done. After the court cases are all said and done, the only thing we have to do is try to get Tony paid back, which may take another month or two to acquire those funds to get him paid back after the courts are done. And then after that, we're off to the races. We're going to be setting up small groups. We're going to still maintain we're going to actually bridge, once the Charlie Kirk case is done, we're going to be bridging or separating the politics from the true crime cases, because we have a true crime channel, a lot of support, a lot of advocacy from both sides of the aisle to make changes when it comes to crime and crime, obviously supporting law enforcement to do better and holding them accountable. So we've always that's been our main focus for this channel, but obviously after the whole thing with Charlie, me being able to sit down and not be a strong in the political world again, we've got to build that back up. So obviously with Charlie's execution, it has made me know and realize that there's a lot more things that need to be done in this country that I cannot personally, if I see a problem, it's a gift and it's a curse, but if I see a problem and I know where the problem is coming from, then it's an obsessive part of me. If I see something, I can't walk away from it. I don't know what it is. Like even with Sumner County, now that I see how corrupt their county is, it's like, I can't just sit here and just walk away. Obviously there's people that are suffering because of their policies, and once my suffering is over, I still have to worry about everybody else's suffering there because of these policies and the fact that they think laws don't apply equally to the citizens and non-citizens of their community. And so those things are very, very concerning for me. Also in Sumner County, you've got a lot of people being unfairly arrested for DUIs when they're completely sober. So you have an entire training problem in Tennessee. That's why I'm focused on Tennessee. They're not talking about crime. You're not hearing Marsha Blackburn or Bill Lee, two people I highly respect in this very movement, that now I'm ready to replace. I'm done playing with them. They're not talking about crime. They're talking about farmland. They're talking about flipping farmland, okay? I understand it's very, very important to have farmland, especially in Tennessee and Kentucky, okay? But there's a lot more problems there. It is not, quite frankly, it's a scary state. Tennessee, by far, is a scary state to be raising children in. Because if you or somebody else unalives your child and, just hides the body well, you'll go years without being held accountable in the state of Tennessee. People are literally going to Tennessee to drop bodies now, because if they just hide them well, they'll never be caught. And it's just, it's infuriating, it's insanity, and it's what politicians do not want to talk about because they don't want to make their state look dangerous. I get it, but it doesn't matter. Your state's freaking dangerous, and you've got to do something about it. Nobody wants to do anything about it. Not Marsha, not Bill. Well, then it sounds like we need another Republican lead if they are not going to be doing their job. And they have not been doing their job. Bill Lee, unfortunately, there's been a lot of corruption under his leadership, a lot of corruption in these small communities. And I'm finding it to be true in Alabama, Kentucky, and it's all these country states that have smaller towns and communities. Corruption is rampant, and everybody keeps sticking their head in the sand. And I'm sorry, I'm not that way. It has to be fixed. It has to be fixed. It goes on both sides of the aisle. It's not one or the other. It's just that in big cities, it's more prominent, and it's usually Democrat. But don't make any mistakes. I was in a Republican community when they were very corrupt. So this whole corruption stuff, this whole cronyism, it's got to come to an end around this country. It's bleeding people like me and you dry. Anybody that pays taxes to your state or your federal government, they are mismanaging those funds. You know how tight we are every Christmas? It's because everybody else in our Congress wants our money through they're laundering our money for personal gain. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are laundering the American taxpayer money for their own personal gain. So every time you're struggling to put Christmas gifts under your tree, you're buying all these elitist Christmas gifts to go under the tree because they got the money. They just want your money to spend on all their stuff. They don't want to spend their money. They want to keep their money for themselves. And we have got to start getting smart. And it is a both sides of the aisle issue. Period. And so because of that, I want Rand Paul out of office. He's nothing but an obstructionist. And so is Tom Massey. So if you guys are from Kentucky, you've got to make some decisions because both of them have been obstructionists in this whole entire design. They're siding with the Democrats. Now, mind you, the Democrat Party is the ideology that just got somebody I knew killed. Several people, not that I knew, but this one hurt very, 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 very much. This was a gut punch. Charlie Kirk was. He was a gut punch. I've been attacked for my speech. I've been arrested for my speech. I've been vindicated of my speech, but it doesn't mean that I didn't go through a terrible walk to speak. And I'm going to continue to speak. And now that Charlie's gone, I'm going to continue to speak even more. We're setting up, as I told you, a political channel. I've already got it. I'm going to turn the original Bullhorn Betty crime stories that I finally got back after a year. It's got 400 and some odd people already in the channel. I'm going to convert that over to, I'm not sure what we're going to do it. It might be Red Pill. It might be something. I don't know. But we're gonna have a political channel. The Bullhorn Betty Club, or the Bullhorn Betty channel, is going to have a political channel on the YouTube platform. I've got one on the TikTok platform, but I'm in the process of divorcing TikTok. I love their platform. I love their people. But what they do to their creators is wrong, and I can no longer support that platform as a creator. The way they treat their creators, the way that they penalize the creators, it's all inappropriate, it's improper, and they steal. The TikTok app steals from its community. And I you know how I feel about liars and thieves. So it's not that I don't use the app, it's right now I'm protesting the app. And I hope a lot of other content creators join me in protesting the TikTok app. They are by far the least First Amendment friendly platform. Nobody's going to tell me what I can say or how I can say it. If I want to say murder, rape, sexual assault, or anything like that, I'm going to do it. And I shouldn't be fearful of being terminated or deplatformed, them taking my channel because I say words like murder. No, you don't get to do that. So I'm protesting that channel in honor of Charlie Kirk. I'm going to continue to protest that platform in honor of Charlie Kirk until they can get their brain under the understanding that this is America. We have freedom of speech, and I don't care if a communist company or a communist country wants to limit our speech. You are in America. You need to follow our laws if you're going to be on the platform. And quite frankly, I think a whole bunch of people should be suing the TikTok platform for their theft from their content creators. Their absolute theft of content and finances from their content creators. So, until the whole platform realizes what they're doing, I'm not going to sit there and do it. I'll go over there when I want to go over there, not because I have to go over there, but I'm not going to worry about my being deplatformed on TikTok. They can kiss my ass. You know me. I don't play. I'm going to be Bullhorn Betty regardless. I do what I do. I do what I think is right. And I expect everybody else to do the same thing. There's either a right way to do it or a wrong way to do it. And I don't like it. So I don't tell you guys to do something I ain't willing to do myself. Sorry my comment is late, but I did want to say BHB, the legal fund can be replaced. However, the moment in time we didn't have to touch the legal fund, so that's good, because people did help. But I was going, like I said, it was already paid for. But in all reality, that's where the money was going to come from, was that. But people came up and stepped up and made sure we had funds for this trip. So I just wanted to say, I appreciate it. I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys for making it possible. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for being here. I do appreciate it. I'm sorry I can't give you a better show than this for right now, but this is kind of what happens on the road. But typically when we're on the road and covering a case, we're live from the scene, so it doesn't really matter which way I do the show, because you guys are wanting to see the scene no matter what. So, this is not going to be something that we're going to be able to broadcast too much. I am going to go to TPA or TPUSA later today or tomorrow to pray over the memorial that's out there. I've got my no justice no peace, no justice no peace, and if you see something, say something signs with me that I plan on getting a picture out in front of their building, and just give a moment of silence to Charlie Kirk. That's what I plan on doing later today or in the morning. So, and then I'll be outside of the arena where we're having it, and I'm going to be standing there for most likely by myself until my crew starts coming in, which won't come in until Saturday evening. But I'll be out in front of the arena, alone Betty. So I'll probably go live then, because because I don't like being places without a live stream in case something happens. You guys are usually my safety net. You guys know where I'm at. You guys can call law enforcement if need be. But I'll be out there with my sign and my garb on and just waving at people, and it's going to say no justice, no peace. I was back and forth whether I was going to go see something, say something, or no justice, no peace. But I think outside of the arena, when I get there, I'm no justice, no peace is good morning, everyone. Oh, Dolly, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. It's going to be in the public. I'm going to be right on the main road outside of the State Farm Stadium. I'm pretty confident I'll be just fine. There's going to be plenty of people because Trump's going to be here, so they're going to have Secret Service and all kinds of stuff. So I'll be perfectly fine, perfectly safe, but that would probably be the only time that I would probably go live. All the personal stuff, probably not. Me praying over Charlie Kirk, it's not something for the show. That's from between me and him, and him and God, so I don't foresee that, but I will take some pictures while I'm out there of the memorial. I'll probably get a video of it, stuff like that to show you guys. But while I'm out in front of TPUSA, I feel like that's sacred ground, for whatever reason. It's just I feel it's inappropriate there. But I will get some footage. We will get a video. I will talk, about it. But the live stream is just that's a little extra. I just don't see that being beneficial to anybody. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people coming there and still showing their honor and respect for Charlie, and I want them to be able to do that in dignity, in privacy. And if they want to give me a statement or interview with me, I'm happy to take that, but it won't be live. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I will not be live inside the memorial. I don't know if anybody will be. Maybe I'm sure it'll be broadcasted on, one of our friendly broadcasters. Maybe Right Side might be there or somebody else. But for the most part, I will not be airing that live. I'll be there most likely crying because, again, I knew Charlie. This is not somebody that I just saw on TV. This is somebody I knew, somebody I talked to, somebody that I picked their brain, just a bright, just The world doesn't know what they've lost yet. They just don't. He was a beautiful soul. He believed in his convictions, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the great thing about America. None of us have to agree. You know, we all can have our own different opinions, and it's okay. It is absolutely okay until you have somebody that is a fascist and thinks that they have a right, you know, for this whole anti-fash. The only people that have showed being fascists are the left. Okay, when you really want to, you can't debate with reason. You have to execute. That's a fascist. Okay, that's dictatorship. Okay, if you don't say what I want you to say, I'm going to execute you. If that is not oppression and dictatorship, I don't know what is. So everything the left has been espousing for all these years about everything they hate, they've become exactly what they say they hate. That's the part I don't understand with all these people looking at the situation and still supporting it. But, you know, again, this is America, and people are entitled to support and vote for who they want and how they want. All we can do here as a community is show people who these people really are. And I truly believe if they find out who these people really are, they will be disgusted and change their vote. Because I think a lot of people look at the headlines and look at the corrupt media for their information, but once they start seeing the stuff that we're showing you, the stuff in the Senate meetings, the Senate stuff, and they're seeing how dysfunctional our government is and how much of a complete embarrassment the Democrat Party became, when they see that with their own eyes, it's hard to dispute. And so that is what I think is the absolute most important, is to show people who they truly are voting for, because maybe, just maybe, when they realize, they may vote differently. And that's what the objective is. You know, these people have caused so much problem, and even if you're a Democrat, your Democrat leadership is not working for you. No matter how you look at this, you need new leadership. So you've got choices that you have got to make, because this falls squarely on your shoulders, whether you're in denial or not. All of them. This can no longer be acceptable, and the people that made it acceptable have to be removed from office. And that's the responsibility of each and every one of us as citizens. And I hope people get on the bandwagon of getting this stuff done, because we need a functioning government. Our government is not functioning. They are literally trying to destabilize. If you realize that your Democrat counterparts, your hierarchy, is trying to destabilize America, when you're trying to stabilize America, it goes against what you're voting for. So hopefully you wake up and realize your leadership is failing you, is absolutely failing you. And if you don't believe me, the proof is in the pudding. Go take the 9 hours and watch the Senate and House Oversight Committee. Tell me you're pleased and not embarrassed of the conduct in those chambers. It was a complete embarrassment from where I'm sitting. When you're turning in news articles instead of actual DOJ reports, I've got a problem with that. That's an embarrassment. Your standing is CNN, The Guardian, and Politico? Not actual documentation and reports from DOJ, the HHS, the Department of Defense, the DOD, none of those. You're not you're not putting those in, not from any area of when they were in charge or even recently. You're putting in news articles as the support for your arguments. I find that's malpractice to me. It's malpractice to me. How dare you run our government off of legacy, lying, chaotic media? And that's the way the Democrats are running the party right now. What is CNN saying? That's how they are governing our country. Because it's clear. If you don't believe me, go look at everything that they turned in to support their arguments yesterday. It was all news articles. Every blessed thing except the Republicans. The Republicans were turning in DOJ reports, DOD reports, HHS reports to show their standing for their arguments. And we get from the Democrats, every blessed one of them, including Miss Ghetto, news articles. News articles. It's the most insane. And then when we find out that they're leaking information to get those news articles so they can open investigations, it is a very corrupt process. It's a corrupted process that only people benefiting are the Democrat parties through their arm of the media. And I find that deplorable and disgusting. And if people just opened their eyes and listened and looked, they would see it themselves. So go look. Look under the hood. Fact check me. If you find something that I said incorrectly, my email is bullhornbetty@gmail.com. Please go and send me an email. And please support it with something other than news articles. Just saying. Spoiled brats technology is good, but sometimes it makes people lazy. Yeah. Never put a check by a Democrat name. I'm just telling you. Nowadays, it's become the party that they say they're not. Everything that they tried to say they didn't want, and that's why they're attacking the Republicans, they have become. So hopefully the Democrats, if they still want to vote Democrat, gets their party in line. Because I got to tell you, you're wasting a whole bunch of resources and time. Go look at those hearings. Go look at those hearings. Go to your state. If you don't even want to watch the 4.5 hours, go to your state. If you have Democrat politicians that are on these Senate oversight committees, go and listen to how they spoke. Nothing that really matters was ever spoken. It was all for the aha. That's not how I want my country ran. And I can't imagine that's the way the rest of America wants their country ran. So you don't want to believe me? Fact check me. I can tell you exactly where it is. It's the, just write Cash Patel. And you'll see the one that says House and the one that says Senate. Watch both of them. They're both two separate. One's one day and one was the next day. So go check them out and see what you think. But I gotta say, by the time I finished watching it, it was exhausting to listen to, especially yesterday. It was awful. It was worse than the Senate. It just shows you we do not have a functioning government. We don't even have a functioning government. We're wondering why we're in the mess, why the American people are in the mess that we're in. We have no functioning government. None. Depends on what you value as what government should be doing. I would argue security powers shouldn't be expanded. Well, that's a good argument. The boomerang of security state inevitable turns on its citizens, and that's what we're dealing with right now. And they outlined that yesterday in the House oversight. It wasn't brought up very much in the Senate oversight, but the House oversight brought up a lot of the surveillance stuff that was being done on we the people. It was mind-blowing. The kind of, like, they were surveilling us. They were surveilling me. They were surveilling you. And I know damn well they were surveilling the crap out of me because I was at every freaking BOCC meeting, every freaking school board meeting. Hell, I had hundreds of people at events that I was doing, rallies and protests out in front of the school board. You guys know me. You guys keep saying, you see what I do for my kids, for the victims of crime, going out and protesting and running stories on the crime and whatnot like that. But all this, showing up and protest, that's all for my political world. I merge the two together because I know that crime and politics go hand in hand. That's why. And it was a very easy leap from the activism of political activism to criminal activism, or victim activism, really. Not criminal, but crime activism, because I want crime to end. Remember this when people are talking about the vote for sheriff, spread the word. Yeah, we need to get a lot of sheriff. Tennessee, Ronnie Lawson's got to go. If you really want to get down to sheriffs, Ronnie Lawson in Tennessee has to go. He's corrupted. He's been corrupted. I found out he was corrupted back in 2022 when his son was going through, because we had done a major investigation on the sheriffs. That's part of what I do. I dig into everybody. I dig into sheriffs. I dig into people that are employed by the sheriff's department. And we did deep dives on Ronnie Lawson because one of the other abducted children in the area that was AR'd and found was by a guy, her uncle, and she stored her on a building on a Lawson property, either his brother's or one that he co-owned. And so when we learned about that history about Ronnie Lawson, we started digging into Ronnie Lawson and doing public record requests. Well, it just so happens none of the public records for his son being arrested for diddling with kids was ever a part of it. And their media out there was silent about it until he was convicted. And then we get a story that he was convicted. He was supposed to serve 20 years, but they gave him a year in jail, a sweetheart deal, because his daddy is the sheriff of Hawkins County. And guess what? He was out in 6 months. Meanwhile, another person in that same community was caught with CSAM. That means they were not a participant. They were just only previewing images, these horrible graphic images. That person got 8 years in prison for just having images. Meanwhile, Ronnie Lawson's son was the one that was actively engaged in the diddling, and he gets 6 months. That's a corrupted community. And it was all about who you know. That is corruption. That is corruption through and through. And so they keep voting this guy back in. And you know what? The reason why we never got any of those is because this corrupt sheriff, he is the gatekeeper of the public records. So when you, and that should not be, because the public record should be an independent entity of its own that follows the law and has nobody's hand in it. And so that this corrupt body sends over those public record requests to be approved by the sheriff. So our record requests were provided to us missing a whole bunch of stuff that obviously the sheriff did not think we should be entitled to, even though it was public record. And it was a case going on in that community, open to the public, that they hid from the public. They hid it. And then you go over to Sumner County, Eric Craddock. He's friends with Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot, which many of us believe, at minimum, disappeared their child. They wanted this child gone. He was autistic. Chris did not like him. He thought he was an artard. Called him a ussy with a P. Sprayed him down with a hose, even though he's autistic. He was violent with him to the point that Sebastian had reported Chris's behavior to a teacher, which had a required report, and or what they call a mandatory reporter. And so there has been 5 open investigations into the stepfather and the mother, in part, since 2022, in a 14-month window. They had the Department of Children and Family Services out at that house. So the sheriff's friends with them. They're all part of the Navy, military. Chris and Katie never bothered showing up to search for their son, never tried to apply any pressure to get their son's case solved. They were already talking about moving on with their life a week after this child disappeared. They've gone since this child disappeared. They both left the community for a week to 2 weeks. They ended up going to a motorcycle rally. They tried to go purchase a motorcycle. They're just living their best life ever, and this sheriff is an accessory to that. He has obstructed his own investigation intentionally. We had the U.S. Marshals that were willing to help in the case that Sumner County refused to help the help of U.S. Marshals. We're trying to get them to work and incorporate the FBI more into the case, or just hand the case over to the FBI. They refused that. So they're just fine sitting. Mind you, they've never done any other independent search outside of 7 days. They have done everything they can to hide this case from the public. They've done everything they can to try to shut me up, including, but not limited to, arresting me for my speech that I did in Florida on my own computer while there in Tennessee. They had no jurisdiction over me, yet they arrested me for my speech on this case, which even their own grand jury that indicts a ham sandwich, I was the lettuce, and so they tossed it. It was ridiculous. This is one of the most corrupt outside of Hawkins County that I've seen in Tennessee. So when I tell you that this personally affected me, the policies that Bill Lee and Marsha Blackburn have allowed to go on, That's why I'm going after them. I do not want to see them in office if they're not going to fix the problems that they've got in their state. We need somebody that actually has a backbone and these things called balls, okay? I like brass balls on my politicians, whether they're female or male, and if they don't have them, Marsha Blackburn, she's not a leader, okay? She's got money and she can fundraise. As far as being a leader, she is not, and I repeat, not a leader, okay? I have a problem with women being in these type of positions because they are too emotional for me. I need a woman that has backbone and a pair of balls. That, to me, is somebody like Carrie Lake, okay? If somebody's going to be in a position of governor of a state, I want somebody like Carrie Lake doing it, not Marsha Blackburn. And obviously, Bill Lee's been at the helm long enough to fix the problems and has failed to fix the problems. So he has to go. So who's going to replace? I will tell you right now, it should not be Senator Blackburn. And I will stand on my convictions on that. I now have a nasty taste in my mouth for her. There is a reason why I have a nasty taste in my mouth, because Seth is a constituent of hers. And he has a missing child in her state where a corrupt sheriff is running the investigation. And she won't even pick up the phone and speak to him. So you know what? She can be on her little chats. And everybody on X needs to be going on her chats, vote Marsha, and telling her she needs to speak to Seth. She needs to speak to Seth about his son. That's what each and every one of us can do. We can do that by the droves. I hope other content creators start putting it in chats. When you're in other content creators' chats, start going over to X and giving her a piece of your mind about Sebastian Rogers' case and the lack thereof. And why is she not getting her state under control? And why is she not setting up these task force for Summer Wells and Sebastian Rogers, or even talking about task force being generated for Sebastian? We got a sheriff that's got his hand out for a raise and a remodel of a sheriff's office. Meanwhile, he ain't doing shit to do his job. They do easy jobs. They're lazy as all get out. They don't want to fight for Sebastian, a little boy that disappeared in their community that was medically needy. They're starting to look like monsters to me. Pure monsters. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's how I feel about Sumner County. All right, guys. Well, that's all I have for today. I've got to get up. I've got another 6 to 7 hour drive before I get to my destination, and I'll be there for a couple days, and then I've got the very, very long drive back home, sitting in all of my feelings from the Sunday events. So I expect to be an emotional basket case as we start getting closer to Sunday. So just show me grace. That's all I'm going to ask. And we'll see you guys real soon. I love you. And again, I wish I could have given you a better, live this morning, but this is it. So it might be, hopefully I have better internet that I can actually work when I'm in Arizona, but where I'm at in Texas. And mind you, I find it awfully funny that, places like North Carolina can't seem to get their infrastructure in place because of the mountains. Yet here in Texas, there's a lot of caverns and mountains all around here. And you know what? There were very limited areas that I drove in this state with all these mountains and everything like that here that I didn't have internet. So if your politicians are saying that the mountains are the reason why you can't have internet in North Carolina, I can assure you that that is a lie. And you need to be pushing North Carolina, one, to start opening up their law enforcement's 24 hours, quit locking the damn doors. We have crime 7 days a week, not 5 days a week. They need to have their offices staffed. We also need internet. They need to start investing in real infrastructure upgrades in the state of North Carolina. So, and they can partner with the federal government to start getting some of that money to help them with that. But they need to start doing something. This idea that you guys are going without internet on your roadways and have all these areas that you can't get at, they're telling you it's because they're lying to you. They're lying to you. Okay? We ain't in Texas no mo, Toto. But just start working on it, folks. There's a lot of stuff. Pennsylvania, you know what you guys need to work on? Making your government take care of your streets. I was absolutely surprised at how expensive Pennsylvania is, and you guys are required to maintain your own streets. That is the most asinine thing I have ever heard. I have never in my life seen so many private roads that you're required to maintain yourself. I can tell you the majority of this country, our government maintains our roads. So if you guys don't realize that, let me be the one to burst your bubble. You need to start making your government work for you. Okay, we're gonna start smashing some of these things that you guys struggle with every single year across this country, and I'm gonna let you know how it should be ran, because we run very successfully here, and I see a lot of stuff like, where the hell's your taxpayer money? The majority of our taxpayer money in Florida goes to our roads, and I'm finding out in Pennsylvania you're responsible for your own. Then why are you paying so much taxes? Why in the world would you be paying so much taxes if the one major thing that they're required to maintain, they put on your shoulders? You guys should have by far the lowest tax rate ever if you're maintaining your own roadways. I'm sorry, you should have better taxes. You should have better taxes than Florida. You know, you guys need to start thinking, and you guys need to start opening your mouth and voting and saying, you know, we're done with this. You guys are robbing us blind. You're not doing shit for us. That's what you guys need to be doing. So that's just my 2 cents. You guys do what you want. I make sure we keep it tight here in Florida, and there's a lot of people just like me. That's what I'm so blessed around Florida. If I don't go to my county meetings, there's another activist right behind me that's at that meeting, you know, making sure that our will is heard there. If you're not doing that in your own communities, you guys need to start forming groups and putting people on a schedule. You're here on this Tuesday, you're here on this Tuesday. If you got to ration it and spread it amongst people, make sure that everybody takes detailed reports and passes around to your group. You guys can have the ability to communicate even when you can't go to those meetings. You can write your politicians emails. If you see something that's coming up that you don't like and you're like, I got to work, because many people have to work, you can write them emails and say, no, we're not okay with this. And it's part of the public record if you email them on that. It has to be part. And if they don't make it a part of the record, then they're doing a disservice. And I think it's against the rules if they don't make those very clear instructions by email part of the record. Now, they don't have to read them out loud. They just have to incorporate them in as part of the record. So there's a lot of things that you guys can be doing proactively to get your will heard in your community, even when you can't show up to the meetings. So start doing that. Start doing whatever you can for your politicians to know how you want them to vote, because giving them the keys and being quiet is not doing you a service. It's doing you a disservice. All right, guys, I'm done with my soapbox. I love you. I'll keep finding out more information about Charlie Kirk, but it sounds like right now Lance is a part of the underlying hate that his boyfriend had, because Lance, from what I heard, was more angry than Tyler, it appeared. But Tyler, I'm sure because of the rants and the raving of his boyfriend, wanted to do something, you know, nutty, like execute somebody in his honor. That's not honor. Like, don't take somebody out in my honor, because it's not an honor to me. I value life, and I value law and order, and I value the criminal justice system. Do I believe in the death penalty? I certainly do. But when that day comes, I want to make sure that the person has had their due process, because I believe in the law that much. Somebody came in and said, Charlie Kirk said something like, Biden should face the death penalty. And it's like, yeah, I agree with that. I think Obama should too, quite frankly. Those are my opinions. But the key difference, the key ingredient is that is through a court process, not through taking matters into our own hands. There's a big, big difference. Big difference. Big difference. Yes, we believe that should be the end result, but we would never make that the end result without going through the processes for that to be the sentence. That means that we didn't say that this needs to happen. The courts and the jury did. That's the difference. If Charlie had done something horrible that would put him in jail, then he should have gone through the process properly. But it wasn't that, because he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was actually following the law, the letter of the law, to a T. To a T. And the problem is he was a great debater. And they were not winning their arguments. And because they couldn't win their arguments, they took out the debater. But I believe there's more to it than that. I believe that the conspiracy is much larger than that. I believe the conspiracy was utilizing that anger and that mechanism to deliver the assassination. At the end of the day, Charlie Kirk was a massive political operative that got President Trump elected. He was going to do it over and over again for the next candidate because he was able to rally the base and put together really good arguments and positions that was hard to dispute. And that was what was bringing a lot of the young youth over to the party. So no matter what, if they didn't take him out, they believed that the country would be siding mostly Republican in this era, and that is true. But what they did fail to do is play the tape through. And the bottom line is not only did he create this massive movement on Christ and principles, he also showed people how to raise their voice and lead. He didn't keep that key ingredient out. And what did that do? It inspired all of his understudies now to be Charlie. So instead of just having one Charlie in this country, they've just got 1,000 different Charlies in this country that have now activated. So what they were trying to stop, they only amplified and propelled. That's all they did. They made the movement more strong and more focused. And I don't think they anticipated that being the outcome. Well, now it is, and there's going to be hell to pay. And I can guarantee there will be hell to pay. Lawfully and legally. Why? Because only 3% wackadoos on our side of the aisle believe taking actions into our own hands is justified. Where on the other side, it's 25%. That is sick. 25% of the Democrat Party believes that execution for political purposes is okay. That's sad. That is what we as Christians need to pray over. I pray for the blinders to come off. That's what we should be praying for them to really see, to really witness. So those are statistics nobody can mess with now. And I challenge you to do it, because apparently whoever polled this poll was well known to both the Democrats and the Republicans. And it's serious. And they brought that poll up. I think it's a liberal leaning poll as well. Like the pollsters are a liberal polling network, and they're the ones that produce those numbers. So, in all fairness, it makes me wonder if the 3% is really a 3% for our side because of the where it's coming from. And it makes me wonder, is it more than 25%? Again, because of where it's coming from. So I guess only time will tell, but even if a liberal polling network is polling this, that's pretty stinking scary. Just saying. That's scary that 25% of the Democrat Party wants to see people like me dead. I don't know where they think I'm unifying with that. Just saying. There ain't no way. I'll support unity until we have changes, until I see the Democrat Party standing up and getting these people out of office and showing us that this is not what they want for this country. I don't think, it's gonna be the people. The people have to stand up. And I guess in 2026 we'll see whether there will be unity with the Democrat Party. But the Democrat, you guys are gonna have skin in this game. And I hope you guys understand that. We're watching. Do you really want us all dead? because I think however you vote this year and in 2028, that'll be our deciding factor. I'm just saying. And it has to be like that. I didn't make it like that, but your hierarchy did. And until you guys demand new leadership and start voting in new leadership, then it sounds like that's what you're voting for, at least from where I'm standing. All right, guys, I love you. Rock it out with your coffee beans out. We will see you soon. I will hopefully later today have at least maybe an update, depending on if I have lighting or not, of Charlie Kirk's memorial. But we'll see once I get there. But I'll run live once the eagle has landed. We'll have our eagle has landed once, and if anybody knows, if you guys have been watching me, when I say eagle has landed, it means I'm officially at my spot. Okay, I'm officially there. You haven't seen one of those come out yet, even though I'm in a hotel room, because I haven't gotten to where I'm going. I should be there today. Thank God. I'm ready to quit driving. But I'm thankful for having a bed. I will tell you that. God is good. I was going to decide not to, and I'm like, you know what? I really, really need to highly consider this. We need to be we need to be here. You know, I don't know if another night in that car was going to do me. I think the car will work out. I didn't bring my comforter, my thick comforter, and put it as my padding, because I figured I would be fine, and I was not. I have bony hips, and I sleep on my side in the car because I'm a stuffed tummy sleeper in a bed, but so I have to sleep on either the right side or the left side. I don't really care which side, just whichever one's comfortable, but that's how I have to sleep in the back seat. And so my hip is right on usually one of those little clippy things for the seatbelt clamp things, and it wasn't very comfortable. It kept sticking me, and that's why I always bring that big thick comforter, because when the comforter's there, you don't feel it. So not the most pleasant first night's sleep, but I definitely will not forget the comforter moving forward. Okay, and actually I've got a blow up mattress that is designed for the back seat. It has little legs on it to go right behind the seats, the front seats, and it opens up that whole back seat. So from that to the back of the front seats is all bed. And I still have that in the box in my living room, so I don't forget to put it in the car. And I think it's been where it's been for so long for me not to forget to put it in my car that now I forget it's there, wanting to be put in the car. And so I left the house without this, and I think I spent because it's a custom piece, I think I spent $100 on it and never used it. And I think I bought it 2 years ago. Just saying. All right, guys, I love you. Thank you for hanging out with me. We'll see you later this afternoon. I will be live for sure. Hands down live. I can't tell you exactly when I'll be live, but hands down live. I will be live tonight to let you guys know I finally made it to my destination and I'm safe. So I'll see you guys soon. And once I get there, I'll figure out what I'm going to do as far as lives and where the lives will take place. I'll get out to Turning Points and see where I'm at from there, see how many people are there, make sure that the memorial's still there, take some screen grabs and produce a video and get that out to you. All right, guys, I love you. See you soon.